Mani Padme Hum. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum.
Hello everyone. Good present moment wherever you are. So thank you once again everyone. We are here to do our lesson number 6 on the 7 Vajra points class. Before we start, I just wanted to say that we usually have the practice session on Wednesdays. 2 practice sessions, one at 6 o'clock, another 7:30. That's tomorrow, but we won't have those 2. We have canceled those 2 because tomorrow they are going to have a live broadcast of the enthronement ceremony of His Holiness 43rd Sakya Trinzen from India. It's a big epic ceremony happening, so you should all we cannot offer anything to, of course, to that overshadows that, particularly on Zoom, out of respect. And also, I'm also deeply part of holding the session, assisting them, the translation and teaching. So hopefully you can all join. And if you haven't received an email, the Sakya Trinzen enthronement. So if you go on that website, that will give you the Zoom, not Zoom, the Facebook and YouTube. You will be able to see it. So it will be Facebook and YouTube. I have asked some email to send, but I have no way of checking whether these things are happening or not happening, because it happens so within a short period of time. So if you have, you're lucky. If not, you just have to see. You should be able to see in the live transmission of some. If you're connected with some of the Sakya centers, they usually would send details. So they are starting for this whole 2-day program. So for cultural, religious ceremony, that's going to happen. 5 years ago it happened, but I don't think it was live streamed then. But this year it will be live streamed, and a lot of international centers and their delegate could not go due to COVID-19. So we have been asked to participate by sending one short 1-minute video message, which we did. And His Holiness will be giving a teaching for 1 hour, and I will be doing the simultaneous translation, and then that will be translated into many other languages. So those are that's why we can't do tomorrow night's practice session. So you hope you can understand that. If not, that's also okay. It's very good. It's very good to have no understanding. We can understand no understanding. But of course, the Tibetan ceremony goes very, very long. So so sometimes you can switch off, but but you can play in the background. It's quite really interesting, very, very interesting. So that's that. Okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to start the session. First of all,
good night, everybody. I can't stay tonight, but I will do my best to come along later. My apologies.
Okay, everyone. Thank you, Ralph. Let's do the refuge and for immeasurables before we do the teachings. Yenda Buddha Dharma Asanga Atere Pita Ladama Virtue Ajihandala Ashare Buddha and Abu Dharma Asanga I did refute Ladama by virtue Ajihandala Ashare Buddha and Buddha Dhamma Asanga I did refute Ladama by virtue Ajihandala Ashare Buddha beings. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion of those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion of those near and far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far, according to the intelligence and predisposition of it. Vehate Yatandandharama Agrelo and come Virgo. So we are studying the Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra, which is a teaching composed by Asanga, the 4th century Buddhist scholar of India, and only second to Nagarjuna, who has written 5 major works. He attributed to Maitreya, but actually it's written by himself, based entirely on teachings by Shakyamuni Buddha. So the text is often known as five signs of Maitreya, but Asanga is the actual human face, human person who did it, and all his sources are Shakyamuni Buddhist Sutra. So anyway, this Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra is a canonical text, but commentarial canonical text. They are not the actual words of the Buddha, which is the classical texts that are spoken or taught, endorsed by Buddha himself. But then there is the Tengyu text, which contains many commentarial texts written by many Indian scholars and panditas, like Nagarjuna and Asanga. So Asanga features very high among those 17 Pandita that His Holiness Dalai Lama has really strongly recommended to study the works. So Asangas, among the 5 Asangas work, this is the second most important one. Not the others are less important, but others are shorter texts. And this text has 404 verses. Actually more than 404, maybe 410, but some of the verses have been has been piggybacked to some numbers, like you will see some tonight. And the overall subject itself are 7 Vajra points. 7 Vajra means adamantine points. 7 very important points. These first 3 are Buddha Vajra point. Second is Dharma Vajra point. Third is Sangha Vajra point. So these Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha 3 Vajra points are the 3. These are the result. These are the resultant called Vajra points. The other remaining 4, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th Vajra points are the causes to give rise to attaining Buddhahood, and then teach Dharma, and then develop Sangha. So what we are doing now is this book is divided into 5 chapters. The 5 chapters, the first 4 Vajra points is the subject of the first chapter. So we are doing the first chapter, of which we have covered the first 3 Vajra points already, Vajra points of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. And then the main part of this text is the fourth Vajra points of this chapter. So that is the Buddha nature. So Buddha nature. And so we have been, so the Vajra points number 4 has 10 characteristics of the Buddha nature. And then these 10 Vajra points, the 10 Vajra points are the nature of the Vajra points, cause of the Vajra points, the result of Vajra point, function, possession, engagement, phase, omnipotent nature, and immutable. And that's the 9th one. And we are about to finish that one tonight, and then move on to the next with the 10th one. So that way we will finish those 10 main characteristics of the Vajra points before it actually elaborate how to unfold the Vajra nature, the Buddha nature in us. So we left with last week with the verse number 79, where it talked about the nature of the Dharmakaya. Now, verse number 80, I believe you all received a handout. It says, "It is unborn." Here, when it says it is refers to Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is unborn. Dharmakaya also is synonym here used in substitute of Buddha nature. So Buddha nature is unborn. It does not die. It is harmless. It does not age. So it has these 4 things. Because the intrinsically very pure nature of the Buddha nature is not something that is born. If it is born, it is produced. And because of what is not born, it does not die. And because of that it does not harm anything, and therefore that it does not age. So these four unborn, non-dying, harmless, and non-aging respectively correspond to the 4 qualities. Permanent, therefore the Buddha nature is permanent, which philosophically runs into a bit of a problem in Buddhist circles, but we are not really academically going into those to get muddled up, gets nowhere. Which is no fights has winners, intellectually included. So I'm not for it. So Buddha nature is permanent. So it's good, it's good that we can have a permanent happiness. So the Buddha nature is permanent. Because of that, it is not born. Like the sky is permanent, but it's because the sky is not conditioned. Sky is not born, therefore permanent. It does not die, so therefore means it is sky is always there. No matter how many world wars get fought, no sky get blown up. Skies never get blown up. Okay, so it's steadfast, and therefore it does not harm anybody. Sky doesn't take any sides. So it's peace. So harmless is peace. So those four things correspond. Yeah, unborn correspond permanent, immortal correspond to steadfastness, harmless correspond to peace, and not aging correspond to immutable. So those are the what you call nature of the Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya, meaning of the verse number 80. And then moves on verse number 81. As it is, means as Buddha nature is not born in a body of a mental nature, it is permanent. So that's it's talking about the Buddha nature is permanent, because if it's permanent, it doesn't get born. Yeah. So because if it's a birth, that means it has to go through some changes. The overall nature of the Buddha nature does not change, so it's permanent. It is steadfast. It's inconceivable. Does not transform through death and transference. So we might ordinarily die and born, get sick, or go through one life to another. All of that, but the intrinsic nature of our Buddha nature does not go through any of the change. So it remains steadfast, and inconceivable how it remains steadfast, and it does not transform, does not get deteriorated through death, punishment, going to hell. Even to go to hell, the Buddha nature doesn't get a bashing. So I don't think Buddha nature goes to hell, but the relative level maybe, or whatever life a person transfers to. Since the Buddha nature is peace, Buddha nature is the peace. It is not harmed by illness of subtle propensities. So this is verse number 82 is talking about that that it cannot be harmed by anybody, so therefore when you know that the space doesn't harm another space, So when you think yourself is space, other person doesn't harm you, because space fusing into another. So therefore it is not harmed by illnesses of subtle propensities. So such subtle propensity does not taint the actual peaceful nature of the Buddha nature. It is immutable. It is unstained by the conditioning, and there is no aging. So those verse number 81 and 82 explains the verse number 80. Can you see? It explains the verse number 80 in two halves. Two verses to explain the verse number 80 in greater detail. Now the verse number 83 moves on to talking about the understanding that unconditioned space is permanent and so forth is indicated by the first two lines. Yeah, the first two lines, it says, when it is unborn, it does not die, it is harmless, it does not age, is therefore is indicated by those first two lines. Next pair of versified lines respectively. So because it is permanent, steadfast, peace, and immutable. So that verse number 84 is just explaining how those above four lines are brief and then elaborated respectively. And now it goes to explain how that is done. And then the verse number 84 has A and B. Because it, means Dharmakaya, possess inexhaustible qualities, it is immutable and permanent. So now it goes to explain why it is immutable and permanent, because of the inexhaustible quality. Because it parallels the extreme end, meaning the Dharmakaya is pervasive. It's whatever, even something that comes to end. Far end, then nothing has boundlessness. But if there is any sense of boundlessness, even Dharmakaya matches that. So therefore it has steadfast quality of refuge. Since it is non-conceptual in its in its nature, because Dharmakaya cannot be conceptualized, Buddha nature could not be conceptualized, it is peace and non-dual dharmata. So when we're talking about the Dharma, Buddha nature, it is the ultimate peace as it is, and it doesn't need to be conceptualized, and it is therefore a non-dual. Because its qualities are unconditioned, so the qualities are not conditioned, it is indestructible and immutable. So that highlights these two verses of the two verse number 84A and 84B explain the elaborates the first two lines even more. So this concludes the ninth point, which is the immutable nature of Buddha nature. And now we are moving to the 10th topic, which is the inseparable nature of the Buddha nature. Now that is also here included as the verse number C of 84 in the actual outline of it. Because Dharmakaya is Tathagata, it is noble truth, ultimate, and nirvana. So these four things, whether you call it Tathagata or noble truth or ultimate or nirvana, they are all inseparable. They are all inseparable expression of Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya's qualities are inseparable from the sun and its rays. Therefore, there is no nirvana apart from Buddha itself. So now in this first verse, it gives the analogy of the sun and its rays. The sun and the rays. You can't really separate the sun and its rays. You can't have rays without the sun, vice versa. So the quality, all those four qualities are inseparable. In short, it should be known that the four types of meaning of the uncontaminated expanse have four synonyms. So the Dharmakaya and so forth. So what is Dharmakaya is Tathagata, noble truth, ultimate, nirvana. It's referring to those four synonyms. So even we use various terms like noble truth or ultimate, or Tathagata, nirvana, Dharmakaya. These things are all synonyms, really. All synonyms, therefore it's inseparable. They are all referring to the same thing. Seeing Buddha qualities are inseparable is the attainment of its true potential. So when we uncover our Buddha nature, that because the uncovering the quality doesn't mean we gain the new qualities. It looks like attainment, but it's also is the potential. It's a potential because we have not uncovered it. But when it is uncovered, it is it may look like attainment, but it's not separable from being attainment as well as a potential, So you don't see that, that dough and the statue that made from the dough, because the statue is the attainment from the dough, and the dough is the potential of the statue, yeah? But in the meantime, whether you hold it as a dough or a statue, they both have the same potential to become a statue, and also it can be attained as a statue. But the dough itself is inseparable in any case because it can be molded any shape. So the true state, which is incontrovertible and is not deceptive, is primarily by nature peace itself. So therefore, the true nature of the Buddha nature is incontrovertible, meaning it will never let you down if you think and believe in the universal nature of the Buddha nature in you as well as you in others. When you know somebody has a Buddha nature, then your perception of them will change, and then the dough that has not molded into statue, actually you can see the statue in the dough, because you can see once you have got the clay, you can make any statue, you can make any sculpture out of it, because you know that's what the sculpture, the mud can be transformed into that. So it will not deceive you that it will not become a statue if you made into one. And so therefore, whether you have the statue or whether you have the mud, they are both primordially same. Primordially same. So sentient beings, the Buddha nature, are only relatively different on the deluded eye, but ultimately they are both same. So this is what the word inseparable meaning. The attainment of perfect Buddhahood and nirvana, which is completely relinquished impurities with their potency, ultimately inseparable. Yeah. So meaning that when sentient beings attain Buddhahood, which means Buddhahood is not really attaining a state it was not, but it is removing the cover, relinquishing the impurity means removing the dough that is not in the form of the Buddha image. The non-Buddhaness, non-shape of Buddhaness has been removed by relinquishing the ordinary form of the mud, and the mud has been then changed into the form of the Buddha nature. So ultimately, the mud and the statue are inseparable. You can't say, I want the statue, not the mud. You can't say, I want the mud, not the statue. Yes, you can have the mud, but no statue. But one who knows that the statue can be made from the mud, he can't have the mud without the statues. Statues still you can mold out of it. So this means that no matter how deluded sentient beings are, they haven't relinquished their impurities, but the potential for them to become the Buddha is inseparable part of the mud that is not yet to be formed in form of the statue. So what does this kind of teaching is that we try to do later on? The teaching will point out. I'm just a little bit preempting. Is that whenever we see the mudness in somebody and they're never turning into a statue and refuse to become a statue, you should still not give up on their sort of non-becoming of a statue. You should imagine the statue in the mud. If you can imagine the statue from the mud, and it's inseparable, because the statue that looks so wise, nicely painted in gold and put in the shrine and high up there, everybody bow down to, but only a few weeks ago it was a part, and it was in the mud pit where the sculpture was kneading it with his bare legs, and then slowly kneaded mud becomes shaped into the statue and painted in gold and put up there. Now everybody bow down. So sentient beings are this kind of they are so deluded by the form without knowing the inseparability of the substance. Substance, there is no difference in the actual of substance. Anyway, so now so there is that's what it is saying, that the Rezo San therefore is nirvana apart from Buddha itself. In short, it should be known that the four types of meaning, so we covered that. Seeing the Buddha qualities are inseparable. Inseparable is the attainment of true potential. So if you see someone in their relative appearance, but if you remember the Buddha nature and everything, then you can actually see the same potential in them, and it is incontrovertible, and it is not deceptive to you, for you are able to see the nature of peace in itself, the good in itself. The attainment of perfect Buddhahood and nirvana, which has completely relinquished impurities and the purpose, ultimately inseparable. I think we covered that. Now that verse number 87. Now the 88 has also two subdivision, the A and B. The A and B. The first part is the 88A, which is talking about the inseparability of liberation and enlightenment. So therefore, he said, the characteristic of liberation is inseparable and complete with its countless, unthinkable, and immaculate qualities. So this is talking about the Tathagatas, Dharmakayas, many qualities. Tathagatas, many qualities has a clarity aspect of it. This is countless. It's countless, meaning it is nobody can enumerate the qualities, and nobody can fathom the what they are and not. So that it's not possible to be governed, to be conceived by your thoughts. So it's unthinkable, and so it's beyond conceptualization. So the real characteristic of Buddha nature is so beyond conceptualization, and because it has relinquished both of the two obscuration, it is immaculate. It is the immaculate qualities. The actual Buddha nature does not get hindered by the two obscurations. But those who don't recognize the Buddha nature then get swayed by the two obscurations, and they do not see the Buddha nature because they only see the two obscurations. But these two obscurations themselves becomes the immaculate qualities when it is viewed from the point of view of pure mind, pure mind. And so therefore these qualities, that is complete, countless, unthinkable, and immaculate, these four qualities are inseparable, and that is inseparable from Dharmakaya and inseparable from Nirvana. Inseparable from Nirvana. So this is distinct from the Sravaka Bodhisattva, Sravaka practitioners' Nirvana. Their Nirvana is not quite like that, because they don't really talk about existence of Buddha nature. Buddha nature is not in the terminology of Theravadas. Theravadins don't say people have Buddha nature. They don't say that. And so that's why it is not the kind of nirvana that Theravadins talk about. Those nirvana has certain qualities, but not the perfectly enlightened qualities. So it is mentioned in one of the sutras, which was quoted as one of the 8 stupas, sutras from which these teachings of Uttaratantra Shastra were drawn in. That it is only it is not kind of a suitable for the Theravadan candidate to talk about a Buddha nature, because they don't even accept the notion of a permanent Buddha nature. Philosophically, Theravadins have a lot of debate against that, understandably so. And then 88b. Now this is a quite interesting example how those 4 qualities we talked about, complete, countless, unthinkable, immaculate qualities, are analogously explained as that of an artist. Of that is an artist. Suppose artists who are expert with respect to different areas of specialty. Say maybe there is an artist who among the sculptures, some artists would make the head of the man, others would make the arms of the man, others make the leg, others make his maybe weapons or clothes or maybe background or clothing or whatever. Suppose artists who are expert with respect to different areas of specialty in different parts of the maybe like a car or something, everyone does something special. Nobody else does the other, The baker bakes bread, but he doesn't know. he doesn't do other things, But the waitress is one who knows all the other things about dishing them out and cutting and carrying how many plates. But so everybody is special, So here, suppose artists who are expert with respect to different areas will know how and what to do. So this is talking about artists, yeah, what to do. But it will be uncertain whether it will be complete with other parts. So this is talking about the analogy of different artists or different artists who does different aspects of the art of the very big portrait. Maybe we're going to make a portrait of His Holiness Dalai Lama, a huge one, and someone will do the maybe scaffolding, others will do the ground layout, others will be the maybe the main sketches, others will do the concrete, others will do the painting, others will do the paint and shading and so on. There are lots of lining and all that. So here example of that. So it says different areas of specialty, yeah, and all of them do different things. You just come the next and you just go away, and he does, then you come, like that. Lots of Australian art tradespeople are like that to make a building or whatever. So they only do that part, but they are not certain to do other parts. It will be complete with other parts. Only when the other part people comes, then we finish. But you can't do the, engineering will do the engineering, civil engineering, hydraulic engineering, electrical engineering, and then all kinds of these things. That's what we are talking now. We are dealing with that right now as we speak. We didn't realize there's so many engineering. He will do one, but not the other. Oh, you got to go this, and then you have to have surveyors. Oh, then you have to have all these things. Yeah. So this example is, unless all of them are there, it will not be complete. Yeah. But it will be uncertain whether it will be complete with other parts. Why? Because every single artisan is doing different things, and it cannot be finished completely. So if the king gives an order, he says here, then the king, the supreme ruler, gives them canvas and orders them, all of you must draw portrait of my body. Now, so then someone will do the legs, someone will do the head, someone will do the clothes, someone will do the background, and maybe the palace, and maybe all the furnitures and carpet, or maybe the floral paintings and all different things. Different things. Having heard this from the king, they eagerly, all the different people took up their drawing work. So drawing or painting or writing, doesn't matter. While they are all engaged in their task, one among them goes to another country. So this is the worst scenario. Yeah, everybody's there, everybody's done that, but the guy who does one thing, he's missing. He's missing. So that's quite interesting. So here the commentary says, the king who has given this big piece of canvas to do the drawing of his has assigned this job to different artisans to do different things. All the artisans have come to do their area of specialty. They have put lots of effort. It looks very good. And then, but one who's going to do the head of the king, head of the king, most important one. I don't know, you can recognize king as king unless his head is there. So his body, his leg, his armaments, his weapon, his gown, his throne, all the things are very well done. But the one who was meant to do the head, he's disappeared. He's not there. It says, one among them goes to another country. He says that's a very just a short translation, and he goes to another country, and then rest of the people feel incomplete. They haven't finished the job. They can't say we have finished the job, because they have, but without the head, nothing is finished. And therefore, and then the king's portrait is incomplete. The king comes and he expects to finish. Still the head not being there. His whole painting is.
What time do you go to bed, sweet? 8:30, 9 o'clock? 8:30?
So similarly, for example, one among them having gone away to another place, the portrait will remain incomplete. Likewise, artists of generosity, self-discipline, patience, so forth, create the exclaimed portrait of emptiness, excellence of all parts. So this talking about the portrait has to be made out of many components of enlightened qualities. Yeah, enlightened qualities. It's talking about how head is inseparable part of the rest of the body. Yeah, so you can't have a beautiful portrait of the king without his head. So if the head is inseparable part of likewise, generosity, discipline, patience, and diligence all are inseparable in all the indispensable qualities of Buddha. But each of those qualities are yet inseparable from the missing head-like qualities. Yeah. So what is the missing head? Missing head is the uncovering the Buddha nature. Uncovering the Buddha nature. So the missing head is inseparable part of all parts of the body. So that which is all rounded perfect and complete body of the Buddha is that Buddha who has accomplished all the qualities of generosity, so on and so forth, who has the what we call the complete qualities, and countless qualities, unthinkable qualities, and immaculate qualities. And so when all of these qualities are there, then you will be able to recognize that. So then it goes to say, as prajna, jnana, and perfect wisdom are inseparable from clarity, radiance, and purity, they resemble the light, rays, and orb of the sun. So this analogy we've been talking right at the very beginning is the sun's sun and its orb of the sun and the light of the sun. Yeah, because the sun itself, the orb of the sun, and then radiance of the sun, meaning the how many rays of light goes, and the clarity, the lightness of the light, the sun, the orb, and radiance. All of these you can't separate. Which is the sun? Which is the orb? Which is the radiance? All of these are inseparable. Likewise, the prajna. Prajna is the transcendental wisdom, knowing emptiness, and knowing emptiness, and then jnana is the emptiness that knows the relative truth of things as many as they appear. So if there are as many as different wishes and interests, capacities of sentient beings, the jnana that portrays that kind of has a range over all sentient beings' specificity of the relative reality. So that's that. And then what kind of faults and karma in each and every sentient beings need to be purified. Like the rays of the sun reaching into the valley dispel the darkness. But that rays of the sun that dispel the darkness in the deep valleys and caves and so on is inseparable from the orb of the sun, as well as the rays of the sun between the sun and the rays of the sun. Yeah, rays. You can't say which part of the sun dispels the darkness, which part of sun doesn't. So therefore, the sentient beings, the sentient beings whose sufferings are remedied by the radiance of the sun. The radiance is the active function of the realized Buddha nature. Yeah, realized Buddha nature. The realized Buddha nature knows the plight and karma and suffering and problem of each and every sentient beings. So the prajna, jnana, and perfect wisdom, perfect freedom is those which actually know the prajna and jnana, because prajna is the transcendental wisdom, jnana is the transcendental wisdom which exercise domain on the domain of specificity of relative nature of sentient beings, and it's being able to tailor that wisdom, compassion, and any of the practice like generosity and so on. Because some people who need to practice generosity, you've got to teach them how to practice generosity. You can't push them emptiness. You can't push them discipline. You can't put them, So some people will ripen themselves by practicing generosity. Others ripen generosity from them through practicing perfection of self-discipline. Because as long as they all have perfection of wisdom, they will all slowly gain perfect freedom. And when they get perfect freedom, then the practice of self-discipline becomes generosity, is inseparable from generosity, is inseparable from patience, is inseparable from the other parameters, and because of that, it is inseparable from the clarity, that is the radiance. Clarity is the overall gift, overall function of the radiance, and the radiance is that which comes, which the radiation of the sun, and the radiation of the sun is so pure, so pure, so undiscriminatory that it dispels all light, all ignorance. That rays of light doesn't discriminate between countries or between. It will go through everywhere. It will go through everywhere, and because of its purity of unhinderability by anything. So therefore, when you have the cultivation of the prajna, jnana, and perfect freedom, you may lack the jnana or perfect prajna or perfect freedom, one of the three, like the missing head. But that's because you have to practice either of the other two. If you practice either of the two, you will slowly become perfect, because they are inseparable. By the time you have the rest of the body of the king's portrait, and then it's inseparable of saying the king's portrait is there. It's just the head is not there yet. It's just waiting for the man to return. It's taking a long time, all the sentient beings to return. Return with the head. All the sentient beings have drifted away, being artists who hasn't finished the head job. But the rest of the body are all inseparable from the head of the king, if only the head was there. So the missing head represents the uncovering the Buddha nature. So uncovered Buddha nature is inseparable from covered Buddha nature, meaning from unfolded Buddha nature. This means that because the quality of the sun, its rays, and its radiance are inseparable, likewise sentient beings and their intrinsic Buddha nature and their temporal adventitious obscuration, which is the missing part of the head of the portrait. It doesn't mean that the rest of the portrait will not become king's portrait. It's just a question of when the damn artist will return and bring the head and make it complete. So we are a little bit like that. We just wandered off as the head artist, and rest of our Buddha portrait of the enlightenment is there all. But in the meantime, our karma and afflictions has made us not to bring the head of the portrait on the statue. But the rest of the body, king's portrait, is inseparable from the. So without the head doesn't mean the rest of the body is not king's body. king's portrait. It still is. It's just question is how to piece together, how to find the missing puzzle. Missing puzzle. So when each time you see sentient beings with lots of problems, you don't see any Buddha nature. You don't see the head in him. That's the problem. You don't see the head in him. Otherwise, he's complete Buddha nature. He's complete portrait of the king. You can't put the head in it because of your projection, maybe. Because of your own wandering off somewhere, you couldn't see. But when you have your own Buddha nature intact, then you will see the Buddha nature fully matured in everyone as inseparable as yours. And from their own point of view, you know they're not Buddha, fully realized Buddha nature yet, and you will not treat them with contempt. You will still see them as a potential Buddha nature, because only the head needs to be brought in, because rest of the body are all inseparable from the missing head. Even if you brought the head, but if you took the right knee away, then you think, oh, is the right knee less important than the head? So we are all missing the head-like piece of the Buddha nature. That is our dualistic impurities, and that doesn't allow us to. Therefore, just as the sun cannot be seen without light and its radiance, Nirvana cannot be attained until Buddhahood is fully realized. So therefore, that's right. So we have to therefore cause the dawning of the sun. We have to see the dawn. We have to cause the dawning of the sun, so that then we see the light and radiance. And because if it has been a long night, there's every potential that there will be a dawning of the sun. So just as the sun cannot be seen without the light and radiance, you can't say, I saw the light but not the sun. But if you see the light, you will see the sun, you will see the radiance. Likewise, nirvana, tathagata, on all those qualities, they are inseparable. And nirvana therefore cannot be attained until Buddhahood is fully realized. So what does this say is, the nirvana that Theravada talks about is not nirvana. That nirvana is just a small kind of a solace just for oneself, and one's own freedom from birth and the death. From that point of view, it is nirvana. But the nirvana cannot be attained until the Buddhahood is fully realized. The Buddhahood is realized by cultivating Buddha nature and generating bodhicitta. When you generate, meaning making a vow to shun selfishness and adopt the unselflessness, bodhicitta, then you conceive bodhicitta. When you conceive bodhicitta, then you're starting to uncover the Buddha nature. Then the Buddha uncover the Buddha nature. Your whole purpose is to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others. So Buddhahood is the benefit of others, not just for oneself, merely reaching nirvana. Of course, we don't want to be sort of negative to tell other practitioners who are Theravada saying your nirvana is not right. We should not say that. So this is very important that people who study Mahayana Shastras don't act like we are the real ones type of thing. This is a very Hinayanist attitude. It's not the school that's a Hinayana or Mahayana. It's the attitude that is Hinayana. There's a lot of Hinayana in Mahayanas. And I'm sure there are some Mahayanas in Hinayanas too. It's very easy to be Hinayanist because you just have to think that we are better than the other. So that's why while this, for the sake of the for the sake of the lesson, it is really sort of dissuading from seeking nirvana for your own personal attainment of solace. It is just encouraging people to develop altruistic motivation with whatever practice you do. If you practice altruistic with motivation, even among the people who don't call themselves among Mahayanists, there will be quite a few Mahayanists among the non-assuming practitioners. So you can never judge somebody by country which they belong to, school they belong to, so forth. So it's very, very, very wrong to judge in this time between fellow Buddhists, let alone with humanity. We shouldn't even say that whoever is terrible, maybe they're doing terrible thing to the world, but still we should think he too has Buddha nature. And he too is object of my domain of loving kindness and compassion. And if you don't have Buddha nature. Your Buddha nature is severed because your discrimination against sentient beings. So if you discriminate against any sentient being, your Buddha nature has been somewhat dampened, or I would say delayed. It has been. Some people call it, distorted Buddha nature. I don't. If that's the case, then where would the quality of immutability of Buddha nature will stand? So there may be a little bit of delay. People don't want to practice bodhicitta because they think it's too lofty. But people may do that. But still, it says immutable. Your Buddha nature will never be destroyed. So therefore, every sentient being, Mahayanis, Theravadan, believers of other traditions, other faiths, they all have Buddha nature. So that should be the attitude. Because if the argument that everybody has Buddha nature and you have to have Buddha nature to attain Buddhahood becomes valid of a reason to not to discriminate against anybody, let alone Theravadins. So it's very important. This is really Mahayana. Mahayana cannot be us versus them. Mahayana is inclusive of all sentient beings, are cause of our bodhicitta, generosity, our objects of bodhicitta, objects of our tolerance, objects of our compassion, objects of our devotion, and so on. And so, therefore, when we say nirvana cannot be attained until Buddha is fully realized, it only emphasizes that you need to develop the fully cultivated Buddha nature. Cultivated Buddha nature and uncultivated Buddha nature are only difference between people who are showing inclination to follow Mahayana and others maybe not following at all. Majority don't, So you never will have majority following Mahayana, for instance, technically speaking. Because it never was the case before, never will be case in the future, because that is how the samsara is full of. Majority people do not do the follow the way that people meant to follow. Majority follow the way that is less than perfect. But that doesn't mean those who are non-followers of Dharma, non-follower of Mahayanas, don't have Buddha nature. So that's why we need to think, even Putin has Buddha nature. What makes him to make this decision to do is unthinkable. Most people will feel angry at him, and they sort of see him as a kind of almost similar to Hitler, thinking like this, And I was thinking, gosh, this is going a bit far. This will totally, break your Buddha nature's qualities. It's not the Buddha nature will be broken, but it will hamper your ripeness of the Buddha nature. Because if you instill anger, if you brood anger to anyone, it is detrimental for one's attaining Buddhahood. Therefore, the sun, the radiance and light are inseparable. And what does the sun, radiance of the sun do? Radiance of the sun dispel the darkness. So Putin-like individual is the darkness. So if you have the Buddha nature in us, we need to radiate light to dispel the darkness and develop compassion to this person who is making such big decisions which is affecting lots of people's life. But what must be like to be in this head, in that position, to be his mother, to be his brother, to be his fellow? What must be like for them to be doing, ordering what they're doing? And you start to feel pain. You start to feel the anguish, sorrow, guilt, fear, uncertainty, and almost not wanting to live. Sometimes you wouldn't believe quite a lot of people who are they don't want to live anymore. They don't know how they got there, and they don't know how to pull back. They are in real hell. I mean, we may see destructions of houses and bridges, people being bleeding and so forth. You think those people in the war rooms are not bleeding? You think they are there? We need to radiate the sun's rays to dispel the darkness. So the sun, the orbs of the sun, and the radiance are not separable. So if we have any son of bodhicitta, we need to send this radiance of the sun to dispel the wrong view and hate that we might have towards him. If we have hate towards someone like him, there is no sun, let alone radiance. So therefore, what does this talking about is, and that we need to, just as the prajna, jnana, and perfect wisdom are inseparable from clarity, radiance, and purity, they resemble light, rays, and orb of the sun. So without that, you could not have rays of the sun. The sun without rays of the sun is not a sun. It's just maybe a painting of the sun. Maybe a painting of the sun definitely have no rays. So we are all painting of a Buddha nature. We are not real Buddha nature. Real Buddha nature has to radiate sun's rays to dispel the darkness of the people in war, both perpetrator and those who are victims. When you look at that, then you are practicing inseparable, like the sun, of its orbs, its radiance to the darkness. So darkness is in Russia. Don't think there is light in Russia. We need to send loving kindness there just as much as to Ukraine. Sure, we need to send money, we need to send various things, all different countries doing various things, but practitioner of Buddha Dharma and the Mahayana teachings should send the light more to where these problems are manifesting from. Unfortunately, we tend to think there's one is the only cause of the suffering. But that's not quite right. One is never cause of right. Because Buddha said, cause of suffering is not one, not autonomously one, not unitary, not independent, not truly existing one even in that place. It is interdependent. It is composite. It is concoction of many things, historical and cultural and political, regionalism, all these things that all these countries playing party. Why they have to extend? Well, if they made the rule not to extend the number of NATO members, if they can increase the number of NATO, break against that treaty, they can do it. And of course that has caused for people in Russia to feel the ground. They are breaking all the rules that they signed the pact, Warsaw Pact or whatever, because the Warsaw, the NATO member was actually limited to only so many countries, maybe 13 or 14. Why have they 30? Who allowed that rule? There are many causes and conditions. Give Putin a break. No, I'm not Putin's side, of course. Poor thing. I'm not. I will be just as among any of you feel sad for everyone, but the majority of us is think that we can be sun here, but not to send light somewhere. We can send the light somewhere and not elsewhere. No, we have to act. Our Buddha nature has the sun-like orb, radiance. We should dispel all the darkness. So that's why that it's not full Buddhahood that will not be attained. Only us versus them. This kind of mentality of taking sides is not one that attains perfect Buddhahood. If that's not perfect Buddhahood, then it's not nirvana. Thus, the victor's essence. So this is talking about these 10 points. The 10 points of what we've been talking about is the 10 characteristic of the Buddha nature, starting with its nature, its cause, its result, its phases, its omnipotent, and its immutable nature, and this then therefore the 10th one. Thus the victor's essence described with these 10 characteristics. Victor's essence refers to the Buddha nature. So we need to therefore, if our Buddha nature is inseparable from the prajna, jnana and perfect freedom, so we have to have perfect freedom from having enmity to one and loving kindness to another group of sentient being. If you do that, then it is unlike the sun's rays. Sun's rays does not discriminate, giving light to everywhere. It dispels all darkness, and so therefore, if we have the comprehensive quality of perfect freedom from bias, and therefore we need to have Buddha nature, and Buddha nature that sees the intrinsic nature of the other sentient being, whose Buddha nature, his only thing that's wrong with Putin is his head is missing. His head sculpture is missing. We act as though we have got our head, but we don't know our knee is missing. We don't know that our background is missing, or maybe the other part of the art missing. We think the head missing is the only thing. Some people's art piece is missing some other things, so therefore we should not here we're not talking just Putin, but if people can personalize that as a person who listening to this teaching of the Vajra point of the Buddha nature. The nature of Buddha nature is that which radiate light and become the sun and bring the clarity, radiance, and the rays of sun that then functions the dispelling of the darkness. The dispelling act of the sun is the compassion, which therefore removes the darkness that we see in objects. So we do not discriminate some as with some the vengeance or with enmity, with aggression. If we do that, then we are not able to act. We can't say we are sun because there's no radiance. Your sun is just like a drawing of the sun, maybe. The sun that doesn't have the radiation, the sun that doesn't dispel the darkness. So hidden in the shell of afflictions, it will be understood with the similes. Now this is what we're talking about is there are 9 similes, which is very elaborate teaching on the Buddha nature. The 9 similes is how we are in the shell of affliction. Our nut of Buddha nature is hidden. So we are talking about how to break the shell. And unless you break the shell, you would not bring the nut of the Buddha, nut of the Buddha nature. So because we are covered in the shell, we cannot see the Buddha nature in others, and therefore we justify being angry, aggressive, negative, righteous, and judgmental, and so on. But if we know that they too are covered in their shell, then we realize, we are all different. We are all covered in different shells, Some people wouldn't see any discrimination between the shells. the fully enlightened ones don't see. We read in the earlier, they talk about the pure, impure one, and impure that is purified, and that one which is very totally pure. So the three differences, yeah? So right now, we are all equally hidden in the shell of our affliction, and we don't know we are afflicted. But once we get to know this teaching, we know we are afflicted because we see the affliction of others as them. We don't see that the shell is only the shell, but the nut inside the shell might be the same as we want to be ourselves. So therefore, the very core Buddha nature we call Tathagata Garbha. The Tathagata Garbha is the woman who's pregnant with a boy to become the future prime minister. You know, that's one of the analogies coming. One of the analogies coming. The baby who is yet to be born, but would be future ruler of a country. Right now, he is covered in the shell of mother's womb and not being born and not being grown up, not being educated, not being developed as a person. So we should see everyone as a little child and not quite developed yet and trying very hard. And some are born not developing at all. It is biologically also. Some are born, look very old. Even though they're 20, they look 80 or something. You know, some people are born with such deformities. Huh? And all sentient beings are just yet to be fully developed Buddha nature. And we ourselves are nowhere near fully developed. And we are inclining to develop. We have signed up to develop. we have signed up. We have signed up to do the course to the growth course, growth of Buddha nature course. You know, they call it empowerment. Buddha nature is a real empowerment. Not only it empowers you, but it empowers you to empower others, to tell them that you too have Buddha potential. And there is not a single person, single sentient being who doesn't have the same Buddha potential. Some people translate Buddha potential. We call Buddha seed of the Buddha, or a core quality of Buddha. We are all impregnated with the Buddha potential. We just haven't met the right circumstances. You know, the woman hasn't given birth to the boy yet, and the boy hasn't gone to school yet. Boy hasn't gone to the grammar school yet. Boy hasn't done all the trainings yet. Boy has some people, some of them don't even finish high school, but they become amazing leaders. You never know. So you never know how a person grows. You know, not necessarily they have to do PhD. All those people doing PhD become gray-haired and they can barely hold their position. So those people who are a lot more smarter than being that, they grow and they become amazing. You wouldn't believe how people get transformed biologically, emotionally, intellectually within a few years. Wait until you teach them Buddha nature and bodhicitta when they're young. And when they start going to the bodhicitta school, and when they start nurturing the Buddha nature, and then they're starting to be gentler towards the very people they thought was like a demon or like a Hitler or something. Now we start to radiate kindness towards him also, and then we have the heart of a Buddha. Because we don't discriminate between sentient beings. And we so easy to discriminate between sentient beings because they don't look like you, or because they don't speak your language, or whatever, or they haven't been introduced to you or something like that. Some people don't want to talk to you because they haven't introduced to you. I think, do we need to be introduced to sentient beings as a one with Buddha nature? we should, next time we should introduce to every, here's George with the Buddha nature, this is Damien with the Buddha nature, this is Sally with the Buddha nature, this Susie who doesn't know he says Buddha nature, but she has Buddha nature. By the way, I tell you, she's got a really good Buddha nature. She doesn't know it yet. We're just going to inform her in a few days' time. Oh, he's like this, but he has Buddha nature too. So I cannot give up on him either. Very good. When you know the Buddha nature, you're starting to send the light to all darkness. So you don't hold back any light from radiating to anyone. The light is infinite. The sun does not say I don't want to shine light in Iraq or North Korea or US or America or wherever. The sun rays goes light everywhere. So when your Buddha nature is fully radiating like the sun, its radiation, its lightness, its effulgence, all of this, do not discriminate. And then you start seeing, oh, poor Putin, poor Putin, and then see what must be like to be him these few days, and what must be, who can he, if he can meet a Buddha Dharma, if he can meet Upagupta, like the fourth patriarch of the Shakyamuni Buddha, who met Ashoka. Ashoka was worse than Putin. Only difference between Putin and Ashoka was Ashoka didn't have this amazing machine. He didn't have any of these modern warfares. But his thirst for power, his greed and enmity, I think would be worse than Putin. He killed his brother. He killed most of his uncle with his sword. Did Putin do any of that? No. He just have all these very dangerous weapons. But even after 20 years, this is, Putin's only his third week of waging war, Ashoka, for 20 years, he's waged war. He just conquered whole Indian subcontinent, all Africa, all Afghanistan, Central Asian Republic, even as far as Nepal, the whole Nepal. And who knows how far east he went. He conquered everything. He conquered Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was never Sri Lanka. It was part of India. And there was no Afghanistan. There was no Persia. They were all part of Ashokan rule. He waged war for 20 years. And he won. He won one after another. He won, and he never had difficult. And but one day he met Upagupta. Upagupta, of course, is amazing, immaculate. He was just like only second Buddha, and he was the reigning Arhat. He was the Shakyamuni Buddha's successor, and just mere blessed form and conduct and discipline and his qualities and his discipline, his meditation, his purity, all of these, simply meeting Upagupta did transform the life of Ashoka. And only if we can have a mediator who is a Buddhist monk in Russia or in Mongolia, they should go to see the Mr. President. Mr. President, you are so beautiful, man. You're trying to help the world. But this is not the way to go. But do this instead. and he just need a very key good advisors. He got the wrong people around him, and the wrong kind of story and history, and because of that, he's got the portrait, but head is missing. The head is missing. So he is inseparable in reality as one who has a Buddha nature. But he needs to be influenced by someone. So we can influence. We can radiate loving kindness to him. we can focus all our loving kindness to put in prayer and send him lots of vibration. May he come back to his senses and talk to some good friends and see the uselessness of waging this war. And also we should send the same thing to the NATO members, because they're having all these meetings, What are they doing? All these meetings, all these meetings. just instigating him. If you do this, we'll do this. If you do this, we'll do this. If you do this, we'll do this. Of course, no one is willing to practice peace. Everybody wanted. So we have to see the hidden in the shell of anger and aggression and bias against some and bias with each other. We should know they all have Buddha nature, and then try to think in this manner, and try to embrace everyone with Buddha nature and compassion, because there's not a single area where the sun's rays should not shine and dispel the darkness, when we truly know what Buddha nature is all about. So hidden in the shell of the affliction is the Buddha nature, and this will be explained through 9 famous similes. This is very famous 9 similes, which will be covered in the next section of the chapter. So we still fair number of verses of the very. We are only maybe a bit over 2/3 away from finishing the first chapter. With this, I would like you to all send lots of radiance of the sun to wherever you can send, out of loving kindness and compassion and prayer for peace, and definitely not taking sides in your head. But if you need to have some intelligible conversation with the friends, it's good, but not to make the conflict get worse in interpersonal relationships. Just radiate understanding and peace and compassionate mind, because the Buddha nature is there. It just need the right kind of the baby needs to be given birth and sent to school, and then he will become great Dharma Ashoka. Then he will. So right now in 1800 years after Ashoka's death, he is now more remembered as Dharma Ashoka, the Dharma emperor of India. But they don't realize he was not always Dharma Ashoka. He was Kala Ashoka, Ashoka the evil, the black Ashoka the evil. Most people thought, but yet he is the most famous king that India ever had, because it used so much war, so much violence, and then he gave into peace. He completely renounced. He became a Buddhist monk. And his son became a Buddhist monk, Mahinda. His daughter became Buddhist nun, and these two brothers and sisters become the founding father and mother of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is very strong Buddhism and beautiful people. How you can see how much Dharma has softened and tamed people's culture and mind. It's because of sweat and blood and tear that Ashoka himself caused to many people. And Dharma is only powerful how it changes terribly violent, aggressive people into peaceful, peace-loving, non-violent advocates. So that's why you can never talk about peace on its own. Peace is even more valuable when you know how to make peace in the danger of making wars. And we're talking about war within us, as well as war around us and war out there. And then we have our opinions regarding that. So there's a lot of stress and fear and anxiety and fear and around the world. We cannot help it, and this is always the nature of samsaras. Like a illness that never get recovered. In very difficult illness to recover. It's a guest who never arrives on time. Guest is always late, and the illness is always continuing. And like that, this kind of war is always very unsettling, very, very painful. But we who are living in peace have the opportunity to reflect on Dharma, needs to contribute to the good vibrations in sending wishful thoughts and prayers on top of your daily prayers, not just daily prayers because you do them as daily prayers, but you need to do even more in your heart and really send in with this regard. I'm sure the prayers work. And if ill will works, if ill will works in the way it does, the good will should also work only if it's mobilized. So believe in the power of the goodwill as well, particularly with a lot of empathy and compassion for those who are unfortunately caught in this at the present moment. And like say 63 years ago, Tibet was going through the same thing, and we have sort of recovered in sense of as if we never had such a bad treatment. Of course, we still suffer like that, but what can you do? The whole world is like a hell. When there is aggression, there's violence, there's no kindness, there's no tolerance. Yeah. And even human beings are more dangerous than beasts. Beasts are only eating each other because they're hungry, not because they hate each other. Look, I mean, this war is. They thought the Ukrainian looked different, but then when they went there, they looked like Russians. They realized they don't want to shoot at the people looking like themselves. So it's completely mistaken, completely wrong idea. Saying there is this. Whatever is in Ukraine is happening in the mind of the Russian rulers, it's all deluded. Their own fear and anxiety and enmity, resentment to the NATO moving east is causing them to project all these things. And NATO is also doing the same thing. So these two are inflaming this rage. And we know how this is how samsara is perpetuated. On a global level or individual level, interpersonal level. And so this is why Buddha had good reason to renounce samsara. See, samsara of victory, samsara of defeat, samsara of proving someone wrong, samsara of proving that you are right. All this, he said, no, middle way. He neither want to go to claim that I'm right or prove the other wrong. He want to renounce this duality, renounce this extreme cause of suffering and conflict and distraction and violence. But instead, he wanted to walk the path of forgiveness, understanding, and contentment instead of greed, and non-violence instead of aggression, forgiveness instead of resentment, and so on. And this comes from prayer, reflection, reading, listening, contemplating, not only in regards to the world conflict, but also interpersonal conflict too. We need to make peace within our own little mind and not war anymore, not wage any war with such small petty mind trying to prove someone wrong, hold someone with a lot of ill will over small petty issues, and then think that we are so right and others so wrong. This is no different than the cause of the war that is now affecting some whole region of the world. So we need to contextualize the concept of renunciation and liberation. Liberation is renunciation of violence and aggression and retaliation and resentment and taking sides. And when you renounce that, you have to accept some hardships, accept some blows and defeat at the meantime, and not waste any more time why they do this to us, and then we think they are completely wrong and we are completely innocent. When we start to have that kind of bias, then that is not the function of the rays of the sun, like emerging the Buddha nature in us, cultivating the radiance of understanding. So thank you everybody for your time and company, and we can now do the dedication of merits. Thank you everybody. Om Bade Mere Mere Varagam Dhadeva Enzage Hamnezen Me Ale Vere Dove Brande Ojana Padare Zenede Herenda Mahayana Dije Vajra Mere Rahavagra Meho Bebe Gansdan Lavaza Choedak Mahayana Dije Kareja Manju Shenewade Asama Tabara de Lava Follow it all the Zamba Aja de Geo de Mere Mede Hexelem Bodi Jida Tebe Vere Nayedanza Where has been Bameyedenga Really without it generation. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Rinpoche.